My name is Kate McDonald, and I'm talking about the Space Shuttle Challenger and what could have been done better. And the first question of what could NASA have done differently is there are three things that come to mind. The first is that NASA did not have good enough lines of communication to communicate life-threatening circumstances. And if NASA would have had those lines of communication, their knowledge of things that could go wrong would have been better supported. And so by not having those lines of communication, there could have been lives saved in the process. Third is that NASA should have stuck to their launch rules that they had already been set. And the one that comes to mind is not launching under a certain temperature, which was about 50, 51, 52-ish degrees, if my memory proves me right. If they would have stuck to that simple rule, the stress that was put up, the C joint that exploded in the Space Shuttle Challenger wouldn't have been frozen, and therefore would have worked how it was supposed to, and the astronauts wouldn't have perished. So if NASA would have stuck to their launch rules that they had already set, then they wouldn't have come to this disaster. And the third one is NASA was pushing their space program too hard. NASA was trying to launch as many space shuttles and do as many space shuttle launches that year as they could, as possible, and they had a really high goal and a lot of launches set up, which because of those, they felt more pressure to get the Space Shuttle Challenger launched off, and because they pushed it so hard, they didn't wait till the temperature and the circumstances were better, and security checks were better checked and better assessed. And so if they would have been pushing so hard, they wouldn't have felt that they had to launch at that certain date, and therefore the same thing, it wouldn't have ended in the death of the astronauts. Second question is around Roger Boisjoli, which I believe that he did everything he could. I respect him for even knowing that his job was at stake. He stuck with it, and he made sure that they knew that there was a possibility that the space shuttle would explode. What he could have maybe done better is, which maybe he may have done, was explain more about what could have happened and what would have been the outcome, and explaining if what could happen happened, and they would have been able to understand better. The management would have been able to understand better the huge risk and the high percentage that there could be disaster. And so even knowing that he could be without a job and he would be hard to find a job at his age, I respect him for sticking to his word and not giving in to peer pressure. And the third question is about the future of engineering professionals and whether they should be more loyal. They should be more worried about their loyalty to management or protecting the public welfare. And I believe that working in a field where you're constantly working with human life and with the risk that comes with this job, your number one priority always has to be the public welfare. And that's because I believe that in many circumstances, the management does not understand fully what is going on, like the engineers do who are working firsthand on the projects. And all the management sees sometimes is the money that they're losing and the time frame. And with that, engineers should always have their priorities set to the public welfare, because if something happens, the management will, yes, they'll be held accountable, but they will also, and especially if the engineers knew, that it could have been saved, could have been stopped.